Well, Amitabh, I think the political storm that we are seeing raging over this meeting between Manmohan Singh and Nawaz Sharif that is going to take place in just a few hours from now is indicative of the kind of pressure that has been mounting both politically and in terms of the kind of pressure that we've seen from public opinion that has been building up on Manmohan Singh ever since he decided to stick with his decision to meet Nawaz Sharif despite the terror attacks in Jammu. At that time, Manmohan Singh had made the argument that while terror continued to receive reinforcement and encouragement from across the border, making that statement even stronger in his address to the United Nations General Assembly when he called Pakistan the epicenter of terrorism. That has not satisfied the BJP at least. The BJP is accusing the Prime Minister of being soft on Pakistan. The BJP is saying that the two Prime Ministers should never have met. The latest controversy, of course, has emerged from Narendra Modi making a reference to comments that were allegedly made by Nawaz Sharif at an informal off-camera breakfast conversation with some journalists, some Pakistani officials and myself. I happened to be present and witness to this meeting because I was, as you know, and we will be hearing that interview soon, I was at the Nawaz Sharif's hotel to interview Mr. Sharif. But before that, over a cup of tea, Nawaz Sharif and other members of his delegation were already meeting. They asked me to join them for a cup of tea. And at that conversation, and I want to make it clear to our viewers that normally we actually don't report conversations that are not on record, but given the gravity of the charges that this has involved, we are departing from tradition and letting our viewers know what happened. And what happened essentially was that Nawaz Sharif expressed some grievance over the fact that Manmohan Singh had raised Pakistan in such a major way at the White House with Barack Obama. Nawaz Sharif's argument seemed to be that disputes should be settled between concerned parties directly, that India could have brought all of this up with Pakistan, why take it to Washington? This was his point of view that he was sharing, as I said, informally off camera with a group of people. Now, at this point, he actually said that this whole problem between India, Pakistan and America reminded him of a story he had once heard. And he proceeded to tell us an allegorical sort of narrative of a village in which two people had a fight. He said one of those people was a woman. Anyway, to cut a long story short, this little anecdote that he shared with us, a fictional anecdote as far as I could tell, had a moral at the end of its story. And the moral was that when two people fight, they should sit down and settle their disputes directly. Why get a third person involved? Why bring a third party into what is essentially a conversation or an argument between two concerned parties? So when I was listening to it, I really thought of it as a sort of anecdotal or an illustrative example of dialogue resolution between India, Pakistan and the United States of America. Not once while I was at this conversation did I hear any slur about the Indian Prime Minister, any abuse of him, any derogatory language used about him. Of course, India and Pakistan have grave problems. They're not going to go away with one meeting. Terrorism is central to them. So this is really not about, in a sense, making a case for Nawaz Sharif, but this is a case for setting the record straight and putting the facts in front of the country, in front of our viewers, that at least the conversation I heard did not involve any slur against the Prime Minister. It was just this anecdote that was told to make a completely different point. I also want to say that on record in that interview, which we'll play shortly, Nawaz Sharif made it a point to call Manmohan Singh a good man, one he hoped would visit Pakistan very shortly. He called it a long overdue visit. He made a number of other pro-India comments, which we'll hear shortly. But first, let's get you started with what started the controversy. The controversy, by the way, actually started when Hamid Mir, who was one of those journalists present at the meeting, he's a well-known Pakistani journalist, he did a phone report insinuating that somehow the Prime Minister had been described as some sort of village woman by Nawaz Sharif. But as I've already explained, Sharif was actually giving some anecdotal example of a fight between a woman and a man in a village and never actually used any kind of pejorative for Manmohan Singh. Hamid Mir, since then, importantly, has clarified on his Twitter page, reinforcing what I've been saying, that nothing derogatory was actually said by the Prime Minister about Sharif. Now, Hamid Mir was the only basis. Remember, there are no recordings of this conversation. This is a conversation over a cup of tea. Nothing's on tape, nothing's on camera. Hamid Mir was making the point that something else was said. He has since retracted on his Twitter page, replying to one of his followers saying Nawaz Sharif said nothing derogatory about Manmohan Singh. That is something that I would say as well.